Today I'll be sharing my vegan naan recipe and serving it to my parents alongside a store-bought vegan naan to see which version reigns supreme. And trust me, you're gonna want to stick around to see their reactions.
Oh, come on, look at that and look at this.
I'll have this.
Very little taste in it.
No. To get started, heat 2/3 cup of water until it's lukewarm. Pour it into a bowl and mix in 2 teaspoons of cane sugar and whisk until it's dissolved. Now add 1.5 teaspoons of active dry yeast. The yeast does need some help to get activated. The warm water is going to help it multiply, and the sugar is the food that it feeds on. Let this hang out for 15 minutes to allow the yeast to activate. While the yeast is doing its thing, let's mix our dry ingredients. You'll need 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt, and 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder to give the yeast a little boost in rising the dough. So this is what our yeast mixture looks like after 15 minutes. It's foamy and frothy. If yours doesn't bubble up like this, your yeast sadly has expired and you will need to get some new yeast. Add the yeast mixture to the flour along with 1 tablespoon of a neutral flavored oil like avocado oil. Now we're just going to mix the dough with a fork until it becomes basically impossible to keep mixing. It's gonna get really shaggy, and then we will start kneading it with our hands. And the reason I'm using a fork at first is because this is going to be really sticky, and so I want to minimize how much time I spend using my hands in the dough to just, keep it as clean as long as possible. So this is about as much as I can stir the dough. Now I'm just going to put it on this clean countertop. It's gonna be messy, don't worry. Before we get in there with our hands, you wanna oil your hands. This is a technique used commonly in lots of different Indian breads. It's gonna help bring the dough together, but also prevent your hands from getting super sticky. And we'll repeat this a couple times while we knead the dough. So you just knead your hands, oil them, and just start bringing it together. If the dough feels dry, add just a few drops of lukewarm water. Seriously though, just a few drops, otherwise the dough will get too wet and adding more flour will make the dough tough. The dough will stick to your hands and the surface, but after a few minutes and a few more rounds of oiling up your hands, it's gonna go from sticky to soft, elastic, and pliable. The whole kneading process should take about 5, maybe 6 minutes. And this is what the finished dough looks like. So we've got our large bowl. Add just a little bit of oil to it. So we are going to coat the ball of dough in the oil, just a little bit on all the sides. And then we are going to cover it with a clean dish towel. And I'm going to let it rest in my oven with the light on. You want somewhere warm, not hot, because the yeast needs a warm place to grow and to help the dough rise. So in she goes for an hour and a half. All right, this is what our dough looks like. It's about doubled in size. Lightly punch it down to release the air, and then use your trusty hands to just briefly knead it again. It should be smooth and tacky, but it shouldn't stick to your hands. We'll divide the dough into 8 equal-ish portions. They're not gonna be perfect. I like to use a pastry cutter instead of tearing the dough with my hands to avoid breaking up the gluten too much. And then just roll each piece of dough into a ball. These dough balls need to rest for another 10, maybe 15 minutes. This is the second rest. It's also known as the proofing of the dough. I'm just putting them directly on some parchment paper. You could also put them on a baking sheet that is lightly floured so they don't stick. And don't space them too closely together because they will expand a little bit. I'm just gonna cover it with our towel and I'll check back in 10 minutes. And while the dough was resting, my parents arrived. Unfortunately, the footage is not usable at all because whenever my parents are here, chaos ensues.
It's a time for you to show off.
No, I don't need to show off. I'm just so proud of my own daughter. So talented. Is it okay, my teacher? I have a white boy here. I think I'm a little brown and little on a white side, no?
Okay, part of it was my fault because I did accidentally trap my mom in a microphone wire.
What did you do?
I didn't do anything.
Look how yummy it looks, my God. Can't believe my child. My little baby is a big chef.
Well, I'm not that big.
I don't mean a big chef, like a popular or a well-known chef or a famous.
I like to cover it with a lid for 30. Hey, where are you looking? I like to cover it with a lid on the second side. Okay. So I filmed the process again to give you a clear picture of how to do this. Grab a dough ball and put it on your work surface and roll it out almost as thinly as you can. Make sure you roll outward and off instead of back and forth over and over. And it's gonna naturally form into an ovalish like shape, about 8 inches long and 5 inches at its widest. Add a few sprinkles of chopped cilantro to boost the flavor and pat it down with the rolling pin to make sure it sticks. Dampen your hands with some water to help pick up the naan, and then you're gonna pat a bit of water all all over the back side of the naan. Do not skip this step because this is how the naan is going to stick to the hot pan. Preheat a cast iron skillet over medium-high heat until it's nearly smoking, at least 5 minutes. To test if it's hot enough, sprinkle a little bit of water. If it sizzles and quickly disappears, you're ready to go. Dampen your hands to make it easy to pick up the naan and carefully place it in the hot skillet, watered side down. The first naan usually takes a bit longer, but on average, you just need 45 to 60 seconds on the first side. You'll know it's time to flip when you see these little bubbles all over. Check the bottom side to see if it's nicely browned. Some charred spots are fine, and then flip. For the second side, I like to cover the pan with a lid and cook for 30 to 40 seconds. I've tested this side by side without covering the pan, and the steamed version always works better because trapping the steam inside of there leads to a naan with more flaky layers. When it's done, part of the naan should actually look a little doughy and other parts should be nicely charred. This naan is best served warm with a little bit of melted vegan butter brushed on top and a sprinkle of flaky sea salt.
So if you want to make the garlic naan, what you do is grate a couple cloves of garlic and put them in the butter and heat it for a couple minutes.
On the stove or the microwave?
In the microwave for like 30-40 seconds. And then you can brush it with a brush. So there will be some flavor of garlic in the butter.
I want you to try both of these.
Oh, come on. Look at that. And look at this.
I'll have this.
Why would I?
So we're gonna try the store-bought vegan naan first. This is from the store. I gave it a little boost with some homemade garlic butter just to like jazz it up, make it fair, even the playing field. So I'm just giving you a small bite of each and let me know what you think.
Dry and very little taste in it.
Mom? No.
This is okay when you are hungry and you don't have anything else available.
All right, let's try the naan we just made that you guys helped me make. And
It's so nice and soft. Perfect.
Oh my God.
my mom brought chana masala over so we could have it with the naan, which is adorable.
This naan is so delicious, I can eat naan by itself.
Does it remind you of naan at like an Indian restaurant?
No, this is nothing compared to Indian restaurant. This
This
is much
is nothing
better.
compared? Oh. Did you think it was better than Indian restaurant? or-
Better,
oh.
yes.
It was a sick burn.
That's a great burn. Thanks. All right, I have a few more naan to make, and these guys are still hungry, so I'm gonna head out.
And how about the
And
videographer?
Max also.
Max is also hungry, so thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Nisha.
Oh my God, it's melting in my mouth.